Pierre Terrail, Seigneur de Bayard, was a French soldier, generally known as the Chevalier de Bayard. Throughout the centuries since his death, he has been known as the Knight Without Fear and Beyond Reproach. He himself, however, preferred the name given him by his contemporaries for his gaiety and kindness, Le Bon Chevalier, or the Good Knight. Early life: the descendant of a noble family, the head of which had fallen in battle in nearly every generation for 2 centuries, Bayard was born at the Château Bayard, Dauphiné in southern France. He served as a page to the young Duke Charles I of Savoy until March 1490, when the Duke died of illness. 1490 Service of King Charles VIII of France. 1490 Man-at-Arms of Louis de Luxembourg. In 1490 he took service as a man-at-arms in the household of Louis de Luxembourg, the Seigneur de Ligny, a favourite of King Charles VIII of France. As a youth, Terrail was distinguished for his looks, charming manner, and skill in the tilt-yard. 1494 Battle of Naples. In 1494, he accompanied King Charles VIII of France's expedition into Italy to seize the Kingdom of Naples. This campaign is now known as the Italian War of 1494 to 1498. 1495 Battle of Fornovo. He was knighted after the 1495 Battle of Fornovo, in which he captured a standard. Shortly afterwards, entering Milan alone in pursuit of the enemy, he was taken prisoner, but was set free without a ransom by Ludovico Sforzo. 1502 Battle of Canossa. In 1502, he was wounded at Canossa. 1503 Battle of Garigliano. Bayard was the hero of a celebrated combat of 13 French knights against an equal number of Spaniards, and his restless energy and valor were conspicuous throughout the Italian wars of this period. At the Battle of Garigliano, he single-handedly defended the bridge of the Garigliano against 200 Spaniards, an exploit that brought him such renown that Pope Julius II tried unsuccessfully to entice him into his service. 1508 Service of King Louis XII of France. In 1508, Bayard accompanied King Louis XII against rebellious Genoa. In the battle that broke the back of the rebellion, Bayard played the role of champion and spearhead in the French assault, a breakneck cavalry charge up a mountain slope against a seemingly impregnable barricade, defended by a pike phalanx of Genoese militia. The Genoese broke and fled before the furious charge of Bayard and the French gendarmes. Genoa subsequently fell, and Bayard entered the city in triumph behind his king. In June of that year, King Louis played host to the Spanish king, Ferdinand. Weeks of festivities followed, including tourneys, banquets, and balls. Bayard was the champion of the first, and at the last became reacquainted with his former opponent at the Garigliano, Gonzalo Fernández de Córdoba, El Gran Capitán of Spain. 1509 Battle of Ag Modelo. In 1509, the League of Cambrai was formed between France, the Holy Roman Empire, Spain, and the papacy, in an effort to wrest from Venice its territorial empire in northeastern Italy. For this campaign, the king commissioned Bayard to raise a company of horse and foot. Up until that time, French infantry had been a despised rabble. Bayard's company became a model for discipline, high morale, and battlefield effectiveness, and played a key role that year in rescuing the French vanguard at the Battle of Ag Modelo. On the 14th of May 1509, against the Venetian forces led by Bartolomeo d'Alviano. 1509 Siege of Padua. Later that year, Bayard was among the French forces under Jacques de la Palace sent to join the German ally, the Emperor Maximilian I at the Siege of Padua. though the siege ultimately failed. What early success the Allies enjoyed was largely due to the combination of cool-headed leadership and dashing bravado of Bayard. In 1510 the Duchy of Ferrara joined the alliance. Bayard was co-commander of the French contingent sent to garrison and aid the city and its Duke Alfonso d'Este. During his 18-month stay, Bayard won the admiration of the Duke and his wife, the Lady Lucrezia Borgia. According to his biographer, the loyal servant, the Chevalier, fully returned Lucrezia's admiration, considering her a pearl among women. Bayard would return to Ferrara on other occasions to pay his homage to the lady, once in the company of Gaston de Foix, Duc de Nemours, just months before the Battle of Ravenna, where the Duke lost his life. 1511 Holy League. By 1511 the League of Cambrai had collapsed due to papal fears of the growing power of France in Italy. To counter this, Pope Julius II declared the formation of the Holy League. This alliance put France at odds with not only the papacy, but its erstwhile ally, the Holy Roman Empire, as well as Spain and ultimately the Swiss Confederation. In various skirmishes with papal troops around Ferrara, Bayard continued to win renown. In one instance, he very nearly captured the Pope himself. About this time, the Duke Alfonso and Bayard found themselves under papal interdict. How long Bayard's period of excommunication lasted is unclear. 1512 Siege of Brescia. At the Siege of Brescia in 1512, Bayard led a wedge of dismounted men-at-arms against the defenders, himself at its tip. Several times the French assault was thrown back. Each time Bayard rallied the French forces and led them in renewed attacks. His boldness at last resulted in a severe wound to the thigh, but not before the defences were breached and the French had entered the town. His soldiers carried Bayard into a neighbouring mansion, the residence of a nobleman, whose wife and daughters he protected from threatened insult. Bayard was charmed by the young daughters, who sang to him nightly. Before his wound was healed, he learned that battle was imminent at Ravenna, and he hurried to depart to rejoin his comrades, but not before enduring the two daughters with 1,000 gold ducats each, the money paid originally to him by the lady of the house as ransom for her family. 1512 Battle of Ravenna. Bayard joined his commander and friend, Gaston of Foix, Duke of Nemours, in time for the fateful Battle of Ravenna. Though the gallantry of Bayard and the French cavalry under de Foix carried the day, the Duc was killed in the final hour, rendering the battle a strategic loss for the French, and a personal tragedy for Bayard. 1513 Battle of the Spurs. In 1513, when Henry VIII of England routed the French at the Battle of the Spurs, Bayard, trying to rally his countrymen, found his escape cut off. Unwilling to surrender, he rode suddenly up to an English officer who was resting unarmed, and summoned him to yield. The knight complying, Bayard in turn gave himself up to his prisoner. He was taken into the English camp, but his gallantry impressed Henry as it had impressed Ludovico, and the king released him without ransom, merely exacting his word not to serve for 6 weeks. 1515 Service of King Francis I of France. On the accession of Francis I in 1515, Bayard was made Lieutenant General of Dauphiné, but soon accompanied the king and army into the territory of Milan, control of which was challenged by the Swiss. At the Battle of Marignano, the opposing armies engaged in a protracted and bloody struggle, which the French won largely because of the valor of Bayard, King Francis, and the French gendarmes. After the battle, Bayard had the honor of conferring knighthood on his youthful sovereign. 1521 Siege of Mézières. When war again broke out between Francis I and Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, Bayard, with 1,000 men, held Mézières, which had been declared untenable, against an army of 35,000, and after 6 weeks, compelled the imperial generals to raise the siege. This stubborn own resistance saved central France from invasion, as the king had not then sufficient forces to withstand the Holy Roman Empire. All France celebrated the achievement, and Francis gained time to collect the royal army which drove out the invaders. The Parliament thanked Bayard as the saviour of his country. The king made him a Knight of the Order of St. Michael, and commander in his own name of 100 gendarmes, an honour until then reserved for princes of the blood. 1524 Death in Italy. After allaying a revolt at Genoa, and striving with the greatest assiduity to check a pestilence in Dauphiné, Bayard was sent into Italy with Admiral Bonnivet, who, being defeated at Robeco and wounded in a combat during his retreat, implored Bayard to assume command and save the army. He repulsed the foremost pursuers, but in guarding the rear at the passage of the river Sesia between the towns of Romagnano Sesia and Gattinara, was mortally wounded by an arquebus ball on the 30th of April 1524. He died in the midst of the enemy, attended by Pescara, the Spanish commander, and by his old comrade, Charles, Duc de Bourbon, who was now fighting on the opposite side. Charles is reported to have said, "Ah, Monsieur de Bayard, I am very sad to see you in this state, you who were such a virtuous knight." Bayard answered, his body was restored to his friends and interred at St. Martin-d'Hères. In 1822, his remains were finally buried in the collegiate church Saint-André of Grenoble. Legacy. As a soldier, Bayard was considered the epitome of chivalry and one of the most skillful commanders of the age. He was noted for the exactitude and completeness of his information on the enemy's movements, which he obtained by careful reconnaissance and a well-arranged system of espionage. In the long history of mounted warfare, he rates highly as one of the greatest cavalry leaders of all time. In the midst of mercenary armies, Bayard remained absolutely disinterested, and to his contemporaries and his successors, he was, with his romantic heroism, piety, and magnanimity, the fearless and faultless knight. His gaiety and kindness won him, even more frequently, another name bestowed by his contemporaries, Le Bon Chevalier. Monuments and memorials. Equestrian statue at Pontcharra. Statue at Grenoble, Place Saint-André. Bayard Mausoleum, Saint-André Collegiate Church at Grenoble. Musée Bayard at the Château Bayard in Pontcharra. Statue at Charleville-Mézières. Inaugurated October 2005. An earlier statue was damaged during World War I and demolished by the Germans in World War II. Statue in the Collège Stanislas de Paris. Statue in Saint-Denis. Statue in Saint-Anne-d'Auray. Clement Bayard, an automobile manufacturer of Mézières, was named in his honor and his image was incorporated in the logo. Adolphe Clement Bayard, an entrepreneur who created the Clement Bayard Automobile Company in honor of the knight in 1903, and then added Bayard to his family name in 1908. In popular culture, Bayard is a recurring character in 3 novels by author Samuel Chalabarja: Prince of Foxes, Captain from Castile, The King's Cavalier. The name Chevalier Bayard is used in reference to a character in Dashiell Hammett's The Dane Curse. Patrick O'Brien's fighting Captain Aubrey is compared by another character to Bayard in The Mauritius Command. Phineas Fing compares the Duke of Omnium to Sir Bayard in Anthony Trollope's novel The Prime Minister. In Ford Madox Ford's 1915 novel The Good Soldier, the character Edward Ashburnham is twice compared to Bayard. Nick Burden refers to Colum MacInnes as the Bayard of the film world in L.P. Hartley's 1951 novel My Fellow Devils. The movie Sans Peur Sans Reproche, directed in 1988 by Gerard Jugnot, is based on him. Louis Sochiclos mentions Chevalier Bayard in The Rector of Justin.